Well, the canvas I tinted yesterday it's still a little, well actually it's about as wet. Still about as wet as it was yesterday, so I'm not going to paint that. But what we'll do is we'll actually do a proper underpainting or wash-in, whatever you want to call it. And I'd still like to kind of do something mountainy. These trees are going to look like, well, they're spires obviously. Some of that mean looking ish. I don't know, I think it's beautiful. These bit of a sawtooth line here, you know? Like the mouth of a northern pike. So I'd like to get these shapes in. Fairly close. Still planning on a knife. You know, I've been asked before, how do you know whether you're going to use a knife or a brush on a painting? I don't always know, you know. I only sort of know for sure a second before I start actually painting it. But the plan is to use use a painting knife on this one. So let's see how that goes. This is inspired by a 16 by 12 inch painting that I did. I don't know, was that last? Would that have been last winter or early spring? I'm not sure. Anyway, I liked the way it looked. It too was just sort of vapors in the mountains, you know? We're into the wet weather. You get the most fantastic clouds around here. I was commenting to my wife last night how you get these crazy looking clouds and localized winds here, and in the Fraser Valley in British Columbia. I'm from Manitoba originally. You know, you're out on the prairies there, and you don't. When you get nasty looking clouds on the prairies, it means you're going to get nasty weather. Here, you can have something that looks very threatening, and it might pass without even a whisper. But then you have all these different clouds at different levels, you know. Might be windy 1,000 feet above us, but calm as all get out down here. So that's what you get once you're in the mountains. Alright, so these are going to be dark. I know that. They're going to be amongst the darkest of things on the painting. Actually, let me... Oh! I need a little more ultramarine blue. You are looking over my right hand shoulder today. Usually I set my camera up over my left hand shoulder, but being right-handed means that for my own sort of vision and avoiding glare, I like sitting a little bit to the left of center of the painting and looking at it on the right. Most of my light is coming from the left as well, so my vision is in the same direction as the left. Now, if I'm actually doing some finer stuff and I want to zoom in from, then I'll have my camera over my left shoulder, zooming in so that you can see what's going on with the brush strokes. Not so important on a painting like this. So I'm actually just making it a little easier for myself to see right now as I lay things in. And obviously, although my hand may be in the way, or my arm may be in the way, in some cases, I don't think it's the worst thing. as long as you can see something. I think I'd like to break this up. We're gonna, what will we do with this? You know what? I'm not worried about that. Not worried about that. I'd like to lay maybe that as a boulder sitting on top. This might give us a bit too much of a layer cake here, but again, I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. Massive boulders, big, huge, massive boulders, chunks of bedrock. I'm not going to get caught up in detail again because I don't want a finicky painting. I would like, you know, with the knife painting, you can keep it loose. That's what I'm going to shoot for. These trees, I'm not going to use such a dark line because they're going to be getting pushed way back. Okay, I think these trees are a little too narrow, a little skinny. Considering I'm going to be cutting into them I'm going to cut into the edges with a knife, so we don't want that to be too. We don't want them to appear to be too fragile. They'll end up looking needle-like, you know, a little more like spires once we're jumping in with the knife. So there's no point in starting off with being a little bit weak. All right, I'm using ultramarine blue and raw umber at the moment, and I think we'll just stick with that. But we'll add a bit of white to it. So we'll end up with a bit of a gray instead of that intense dark color. Let's see. Because it's against a white background, it doesn't look very light. But once we have it washed in, you'll begin to see the difference more clearly. You will definitely see the difference more clearly. Okay. high. Do I need to go that high? I don't know. I don't know. I know that in general that's okay. Just like that. Okay. There's going to be a lot of fog and moisture in here. It's going to obscure this line between this plane and the sky behind it. So that's why I didn't feel that I wanted to have a very dark line here. I want to give that feeling of distance. So we can just block in this entire area with this gray. Let me grab a bigger brush because right now I'm just too much like playing, not getting anything done. Okay. That's a little umbery. Still too umbery. I'm taking umberage with it. Sorry. I'll apologize for the stupid jokes as I go. That way I don't have to remember them all at the end. You know, so we're not, this in here isn't going to be so much scene as it'll be effect. You know, what tells you that there's something there will really mostly be this outline, because it's going to be, to a large part, quite obscured. So you're not going to see rock structure in there really very much. Okay. That's closer and stronger, but I'm going to use a similar color on these two rocks. A little darker, a little lower value. Okay. Just going to keep my computer awake here. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm going to keep it pretty dark all over the place here. This brush is also losing its strength. It's becoming a little bit splayed. That's okay. push this down here. We're going to have quite a warm sky, and then we're going to get cold here. And then as we come down here, we'll pick up some more richer colors. Not so much higher values, but warmer, richer colors. Let me add a little bit of alizarin crimson to that mix. Get a little bit of a mauve underpainting here. Again, you know, when you're painting that on a blinding white canvas, you really can't see much of a difference between the colors, but they will come to life once it gets dry. I may have to wash this in and then leave it and switch back to the other painting. See how quickly it dries. I'm not sure yet. But I am needing a little more raw umber, so we'll grab some of that. Okay. Add just a hint of white to that. Just a hint. Maybe also another hint of alizarin crimson. I don't mind if I obscure some of these lines because I'm sort of following I'm following a lot of them with the direction of my brush stroke. So even if the line gets obscured, the direction of the brush stroke will remain, and that still helps for reference as we move along in the painting to remember what the original plan was. Very gray, a little bluer, warming up already a little bit here. Do I want to go back to... No, I don't think I want to go back to gray. I think we're going to stick with this. We'll stick with this raw umber look. Not so raw umbery. Let me add a little bit of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, so we go that deep purple again. I'd like this to be a mass, and then I'd kind of like this to flow down and be a mass with the same sort of feel to it. So I'll try to approximate those colors a little more accurately. Yeah, that'll do the job. Okay. I try to guess as I'm going along how much color I'm needing in various areas so that when I have an area finished, I don't have a whole bunch of paint left on my palette. Let's go back to our ultramarine blue. umber, sort of doing away with the red. It's still contaminating the pile a little bit, but there's not much there. Really not a lot there. And I do want to stay with the dark colors. Yeah, that's pretty umbery. That's okay. The more white we get rid of, the more able a person can see what's more able a person can know. The more able I am to see what's really going on. Yeah, I think we're doing okay. We're doing all right. Go around the shoulder a little bit. Go under the canvas a little bit, going around the shoulder on the bottom. Mix up just a little more paint to finish this last little bit. I could scratch enough off my palette, but then I ended up with kind of a light spot down here, and I don't really want a light spot down there. Once the painting's in, I wouldn't mind it, but right now, we don't want that. We want that dark. Okay. Alright. Let's give the brush a little wipe now. Doesn't need to be spick and span. I just want the excess paint out of it, because we're going to some lighter colors here now. A little more, well, during the wash-in you won't see a very intense variety of color, but I do want the value to be higher. I don't like to paint a light sky against a dark background. Refractive index would dictate that the light that you put in your sky will lose quite a bit of its zeal if you do that. So that's a good thing to avoid. Yellow ochre and some alizarin crimson. Actually, I need to add some more yellow ochre to my palette as well. And okay, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, a hint of raw umber, just to take the lead out of the pencil a little bit. We'll put the lead back in the pencil once we get to actually painting it, but for the time being, we don't want to get too loud and obnoxious with our colors. I just want them a bit lighter. Yeah, I think that's going to work for the wash. trees might be a little too far in. We'll worry about that later. It's a warm color. I would like some movement in the sky. That's why I'm doing this, okay? Just to remind me, you know, from this curve back, we'll stick with what we have. We come over here, we're going to get a little lighter in our overpainting, and we'll go with a little bit of mauve in here as well too. But for the moment, that's kind of the direction our brush strokes will take. We'll switch brushes so I don't make too much of a mess. I'm not trying to be perfect. I just don't want to be too sloppy, that's all. Bit here, bit there, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's go to alizarin crimson and a bit of cobalt blue. And some white, actually. Get into the purples. It's pretty heavily contaminated with yellow ochre yet, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm not going to obscure this line during the wash-in. I'm going to do it with the overpainting. Pull another switcheroo with the brush. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty symmetrical here right now, that line of trees, but not to worry, that'll get broken. Bent and broken. Just a dab of yellow ochre and some white now. It's contaminated with the stuff that's underneath it. I'm not worried about it. As long as I don't go too high in value, you know, which obviously I'm not doing because we're going to get into almost pure white in just a few spots. Well, I never go pure white, but you know, just a nice warm white, yellow ochre, maybe even a cad yellow pale put in there into the mixture. Yeah, that's really... No, I'll leave that for now. That's something to play with later. But we have a wash-in, you know, general ideas there now. And I think, here, let me back the camera up a little bit for a moment. I think we're going to want a little bit of work here. You know, this bit too much of a rooftop, bit too symmetrical. Might have another tip of a tree poking out somewhere along here, just to break it. Getting color on the rest of the painting will affect all that. But in the case of this painting, what I'm going to be doing is the sky first. So I want to make sure that at least my sort of, what would you call it, horizon line. I know it's not quite what it is, but I want that to be at least reasonably good. But we're into winter. That means there's a high humidity out there and in the house. So I think I'm going to park this close to my gas fireplace here, and hopefully it can dry okay. The other one's too wet. I could go into it. I could go into it with the knife when it's wet. I certainly have done it before. We'll see how patient I am. It presents its own set of problems when you go onto a slippery surface with the knife, but yeah. Anyways, there it sits. Where it goes from here We'll see you next time.